Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you. Thank you.
So is it true that everything's holy now? We can feel it. We can experience all forms as holy, right? But then what about those teachings that say, oh, life's a dream. Everything's just an illusion. The Dhammapada, which is a collection of Buddha's sayings, says this: experience the world as a bubble, a wave, an illusion, a dream. Now, if you tell a Zen master that everything is like a dream, she will take a stick and whack you over the head and then ask, is that a dream? So the truth is that we are spiritual beings that have incarnated into human form. Am I right? Yeah. So we've got this kind of dual or paradoxical thing that we're working with in this incarnation. We need to remember our phone number and our divine nature. And spiritual teachings tell us that we really can't fulfill our highest potential without knowing our spiritual nature. So it's essential that we know our spiritual nature, but we must also honor our human incarnation. We must honor the needs of the body, because we're not going to be able to sit down and meditate if we're not eating, sleeping, taking care of the needs of our body, taking care of our feelings, taking care of the people, having good relationships in our lives, and the earth itself. We want the earth itself to be healthy and to thrive as well. We must honor this human experience because it's what we're doing now and what we chose, right? Charles Fillmore, our Unity co-founder, would teach the importance of focusing on this life, this experience, that whether or not it's an illusion or whether or not we're projecting it from our conscious, whatever kind of philosophy you might have around it, it's what we're in. So we need to honor it and to live according to the needs that present themselves in this life, so that we can experience the gifts of what we're here to learn and to grow through. And just as consciousness, like light, functions as a particle and a wave, I talked about this previously in this series, our existence has both a universal and a personal dimension, and we got into that universal dimension in our meditation tonight, and this is based on the work of wonderful Buddhist teacher Jack Kornfield and his book The Wild Heart. I keep wanting to say the Wild Heart. I want to make him a little crazy. Wild. You can have a wild heart too. It's the wise heart, and want to credit him correctly. So both of these two dimensions, the universal and the personal, we want to respect them, and that is how we become happy and we become free. So what is this universal dimension? Well, he also calls it the big picture. The big picture. There's this book that I love. It's just images, and it's called Zoom. And you can open to the first page, and it's this photo of a rooster. Like, it's not really a photo, it's a drawing of a rooster. And then the next page, it's expanded out more, and you see that the rooster's on a farm. And then the next page, it expands out more, and you see that the farm is actually in a postage stamp. And you see that the postage stamp is on a letter. And it expands all the way out to, like, you see planet Earth. And basically the book is to support you in remembering to get the big picture. We're down here in the postage stamp a lot of the times, aren't we? We're there with the rooster thinking we're in the problem. right? In the thick of it, whatever it is. And that when we can pull back, we can zoom out, as you would say in photography or in filmmaking, zoom out, get a wider perspective. We gain this perspective by remembering the selflessness of all things. We give things a self, an identity, right? But there's actually a selflessness of all things. And it reminds us that all things on earth are temporary, all things are transitory. They appear out of emptiness and then they disappear. You really get a sense of that when you sit and practice insight, and as you bring your attention to what shows up, you see it arises out of nothing. Some thought, some sensation, comes out of nothing, disappears. Jack Kornfield's teacher, Achin Shah, encouraged his students by saying, praise and blame, gain and loss, pleasure and pain are always changing. Notice how nothing lasts. It will put your successes and failures into perspective. Jack Kornfield also says that people who are about to face death, they more readily know the universal dimension experience of life. They're very present to that. He visited with a Buddhist practitioner named Michelle, who was dying of cancer and her body was wasting away. And she said this, as I was meditating last week, it became clear to me that I am not my body. But then today, I realized that I was not all the ideas that I have about myself either. Nobody is. We have so many ideas about each other based on our age, our personalities, our history, yet they're so tentative. We're only acting that way for a little while. William Shakespeare wrote, "All the world's a stage." He saw it so clearly, she said. And this was her experience of opening to the wisdom of that universal perspective beyond this experience that she was going through. Now, without the big picture of life, the unending changes, life is just change after change after change. It's like you look at your email or you go to a meeting or whatever, something changed. Okay, something's changing, and it can just overwhelm us with a constant, put on the news, forget it. You're going to see tons of changes, right? Be overwhelming. We can have a child or a grandchild. We can get or lose a job. We can start or end a relationship, get sick or well. And if you think that you're the only person going through these experiences, go to any hospital and see how many cars are parked there. and then try to get a spot. Right? So this is not just personal, it's the dance of life that we go through these experiences. And a broader perspective is essential in any crisis that we may be going through. Now, Jack Kornfield, in addition to being a Buddhist teacher, he's also a trained and licensed psychologist. And in his practice, whenever he is working with patients who, like parents who have lost children, he'll send them to a group of other bereaved parents. He does the same thing with veterans, the same thing with suicide survivors, with anorexics. When we share our suffering with people who have gone through similar experiences, then we remember that it doesn't feel so isolated, so personal, like it's just me or them, that it becomes us. And it's like there's that, I keep thinking of that saying of, you know, the one that's like, a burden shared is half a burden, a joy shared is twice the joy. You know, we support each other in that way, as we have so many wonderful groups here at Unity to support you, whatever you may be going through, growing through, so that you can be with others who are going through those similar situations, and knowing that there's a universal experience happening for us, and we can support each other and find peace in that. So from this universal perspective, then we have to return to the world of form and details, because that's the balance. That's part of our experience. When we return to it without being caught up in it, without being so enmeshed in it. Form must be honored, and a spiritual life requires us to live from these multiple perspectives. Form has an important function in our lives. Ajahn Chah demonstrated this when he held out his hand. He held his hand open and flat, and he said, look, I can hold things on my hand. I could place things on them, hold that, and it can have that function, but it's limited, right? There's only so much I can do with just this flat hand. He said, in the same way, I can close my hand into a fist and I can strike things. I can knead dough or whatever I might want to do with this fist, but that's also limited. He said it's only because we can open and close our hands that allows us to respond to the different circumstances in our lives so that our hand is working for us. It's common in spiritual circles for people to use spirituality as a way to avoid the world of form. It's also called spiritual bypassing. Now, Jack spent 5 years in Thailand studying Buddhist meditation teachings. And he said it took him years after returning to America to learn to respect and practice engaging in the world of work so that he can be effective in his money and his work and his relationships. And he gave a couple of examples of people who he experienced as a teacher who were using spirituality to avoid the world of form. One man's name was Mark. I assume he's changed these names. He tells these stories but to protect them. But Mark was an aging and charming Sufi practitioner. He was a house sitter and a gardener, and he had fathered a child, but he never paid any attention to the child, and he never had any money to share with this child. But to Mark, this was all part of God's dance. It was all part of God's way. It was a dream-like play, is the way he described life. But then when he was able to get Mark to speak honestly, Mark shared that he actually did want a home and a settled life, but he just didn't know how to do it. And then there was Teresa, whose depression was being reinforced by the Buddhist teachings on suffering and pain. She just used the ideas of impermanence, to kind of feed into her seeing herself as a victim. She didn't know how to make changes that would have transformed her life. And so she justified her feelings of being stuck with spiritual platitudes that helped her to feel better. She said, it's all just impermanent, it's all just empty. And that was her way of dealing with it. And whether we use the Buddhist saying, everything is a dream, or the Christian saying, well, it's all God's will, these are truths that can be misused for us to refuse our personal responsibility for our lives. We need to take personal responsibility for this body, for this world of form, and for the responsibilities that we've taken for other people and our work and things in our lives. One day, a student came to see Jack's teacher, Ajahn Chah, and urgently confided with the teacher, Ajahn Chah, I have attained the first level of enlightenment. All impressed with himself. And Ajahn Chah said, well, that's a little better than being a dog. Now, actually, this comparison was a terrible insult in Thailand. It was kind of a horrible thing to say to him. And in telling the story, Ajahn Chah smiled and said, the student didn't like that. He said that, and he went away in a great huff. The enlightened one was angry. So we can't pretend we're just too spiritual for any experience in our life. If you're angry, you need to admit that you're angry and then look for the causes, to feel that, to be with it, and to see what needs to be healed or forgiven, changed. And the same as if we're sad or frightened or ashamed. And these are great places for spiritual practice. That energy shows up, it's like, okay, I can work with that because now I'm aware of it and it's not operating unconsciously where it's showing up and spurts of anger or different ways where it's affecting my relationships, right? Now, if we live in fear, we need to explore our resistance of that fear. We need to make conscious whatever is keeping us from living fully. Ajahn Chah said, we can't find freedom and enlightenment somewhere else, only here and now. Here and now. Our lives are offering us a perfect opportunity and every moment to experience enlightenment when we are present to what's present. He said, it is here in the world of form. Only in form can we develop integrity, patience, generosity, truthfulness, dedication, compassion, the great heart of the Buddha. Much of the great dissatisfaction that people experience in life these days is because we live in increasingly disconnected ways. We sense that. Feels like we're starting to come together more, realize the necessity of community, being in each other's presence. And instead of becoming very rigidly spiritual in our approach to life or disembodied, we can have a sense of humor about life, right? We laugh at our problems. That was something that Charles Fillmore said. Just laugh at your bills. Laugh and laugh, laugh at your problems. Shift your energy around all that, around the dance of life. Let everything become easier and lighter. It doesn't have to be so heavy and intense all the time. Read a joke book or watch cholesterol. We can speak out against injustice, and we can also meet each person with an awareness of their nobility, of their beauty, that they are timeless beyond age, beyond gender, beyond race. Really, each one of us has an eternal nature beyond form. And so when we honor this paradox of our true nature, this form and essence, right, we can laugh about life and develop the wisdom, be present to tenderly care for our lives, experience the precious days that we have been given. Namaste.
I think this was one of my favorite chapters in the book so far. I really appreciate your synopsis of it. Yeah, it reminded me of a time I was in a spiritual group, and somebody came in and shared that she had just witnessed a car accident, and she was really disturbed and upset, and it was, just really disrupted her day. But then she goes, well, but it's an illusion. Everything's an illusion. I was like, wait, you're feeling something, and it's okay. It's okay to have a response to what you're seeing in the world. And so let's not be so quick to dismiss, like you said. And so when I witness an accident, I try to just pray for whoever's involved and immediately. So I'm not pretending like it's not there. Mm-hmm. Some people are having a very impactful experience right then. So incorporate that all into spiritual life as well.
Yeah. There's a Buddhist practice of just experiencing the pains that are carried in the world and just being with that and having a heart of compassion that can hold all of that. Mm-hmm. It's powerful.
Yeah, I think it's I'm so glad you brought this up, Jeanmarie, about the spiritual bypassing it and the idea that sometimes when we are on the spiritual path, that in unity, I love it, that we're so positive and we really do know that there's one presence, one power for good everywhere present, right? And still, though, in this human experience, we experience suffering. It's a universal thing. We experience challenges. And so to not just be with them is really not helping us, right? It does ourselves a disservice. And the people that we're around, like you said, for this person who maybe felt like in this group, I'm going to make this up, that, oh, well, I'm in a unity group, I need to just say, it's fine, I know it's all good, you know. And instead, to have the opportunity to just say, and you know what, I just feel shook up right now. I was imagining if this is my love, and we can all just hold that space for each other and say, yeah, life is fragile, and it is for all of us in the level of form, you know. It's a gift we can give to one another to hold that space.
Yeah. And I love how when in the chapter, and you mentioned when they were talking about death, and it's like if you go to a wedding, you can imagine that you're attending every wedding that's ever been and that ever will be. And same with the funeral. If you go to a funeral, you can imagine the universal perspective that you're part of every funeral that ever was and that ever will be, because we're tapping into a common human experience, a human condition, a human situation, and we can all share those feelings. And maybe that's why rituals are important too, because we're like tapping into that other level of beyond the personal, of transcending the personal.
Yeah, it's a fuller and richer experience when we approach it that way.
Yeah.
Being present to the whole scope of that.
Ready within you. Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.